Welcome back to Stolzer & Sons Gunsmithing. I'm Colin Stolzer. This is the next installment, the second installment of the project I'm starting, building the Double Deuce, the 2-bore underlever cartridge side-by-side rifle. Today I wanted to give you a basic rundown of the parts and materials involved and some of the basic costs involved in this kind of project. I'm not going to give away the total bill on this thing. It wouldn't be right to do that to my customer. It's between him and I, but I will give you an idea of what it costs in just materials-wise to build this kind of stuff and to do a custom one-off project like this. So without further ado, I'm going to run you through just a few of the basic materials that are going to be involved and give you some cost breakdown of some of these things. You might notice I got around to cleaning up my workbench, my metal working bench. It's a little cleaner today. Starting over here on the left side of the bench, that's a stock blank for this project. That's a piece of sugar maple, rock maple. It's a rather expensive blank, and it's one of the reasons it was expensive is because it's cut extra wide. For this size of action, you can't go with like a normal 2 or 2.5 inch blank. You need to start out with something that's wider than that, and this one's cut to a little over 3 inches thick. So it was a little more expensive because I had to have it custom cut, and the piece itself, although it doesn't have a lot of figure in it, what it does have that it makes up for is for the amount of recoil this gun's going to have. This stock blank is very dense, it's extremely heavy, and it has a very straight, tight grain to it, so it'll handle the recoil very well without splitting the stock, hopefully. Moving over a little bit here, what you see in front of me is this is the blank billet that I'll be using to make the action and monoblock out of. This is a piece of 3-inch by 4-inch 8620. This piece of steel alone was $600, so that's a pretty good chunk of money right there. Don't want to make any mistakes with that. Behind it is 2 barrel blanks. These are custom made. They're 1-310 bore, 1-326 groove. They're 31 inches long, but by the time I trim them down and cut them to lose the run out on the rifling and whatnot, this will end up being 29-inch barrels. So they were $1,000 a piece, so there's another $2,000. Behind that, there's the Jeff Tanner ball mold, which was right around 100 British pounds sterling. A trigger guard that'll get cut down and reshaped. Those are 2 L&R back action locks, and what I'm going to do is I will gut those and replace the lock plates to a dolphin shape and remodel the locks with the safety features and whatnot, and really fine tune them and polish them up and make them a real custom lock by the time I'm done. But they're $85 a piece. The trigger guard was $25. These are Graco mercury recoil reducers. 4 of those. I'm going to hopefully squeeze them into the buttstock. I know I can get 3 in there for sure, but I'm thinking I might be able to get a 4th one in there with this gun. That's a Packmer Decelerator recoil pad. That's a Dakota Arms English style grip cap, 2-screw grip cap, and this is a New England Custom Guns multi-leaf express sight, and it's about $85 for that little sight right there. So, you know, sitting on the table right here, there's roughly $3,600, maybe $3,800 worth of materials just sitting on the table, and this doesn't include the other materials that are going to be involved. There'll be the rib material for the top and bottom ribs. There'll be the metal to make the quarter rib and the front sight base out of. There'll also be the materials for the wedges in between. There's the pins for the action, the main pin, and the various other parts in the action. There'll also be some things you're not really going to see me use more than once, but they also add up to the cost. Custom chamber reamer, and so that was made by Pacific Tool. And there's some custom reamers for reaming out the pinholes and whatnot. So these things all add up, and so total materials cost on this is pushing close to $6,000 for just the materials cost, and that's that's before I start into the labor or anything. So what I'm going to do today is, this is the beginning of this project, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do all my layout and start cutting up that 3x4 block of 8620 and get it down to some manageable sizes that I can work on my machinery, and so we'll go from there. So the first thing to do is to measure it to the overall length of the action, and then just cut that chunk off in my bandsaw. Got a little bit out here on the end to prop it up because I don't want it falling off my bandsaw when it makes the final cut. For one, that piece of steel, the whole chunk weighs about 80 pounds, and so that piece there is probably about 35-40 pounds, and it'll take a big chunk out of my concrete. It also would probably damage the corner of the block, and I don't want anything damaged on this. I want everything to stay as square and true as I can to start with. So here we go, just a little bit of cutting to do. With my little saw, it's probably going to take a long time to hack through this, but eventually it will get through it. And I won't bore you with the details of watching the whole thing. A little squirt of cutting oil on there every now and then just to help things along, make my blades last a little longer. Slowly but surely it's hacking its way down through there. Slowly but surely, about an inch to go. And there we have it, finally through the first piece. Now I'll have to cut another chunk for the monoblock section, and we'll work forward from there. And there we have the monoblock piece cut off, so we're ready to move on to actual layout of the parts. So here we are laid out, and this really wasn't anything complicated. What I did was just made a copy of the drawing that I did and cut it out. These initial lines that I'm putting on here, the ones you can probably see just a little reflection of, these are just reference lines. All of my actual measurements will be done in my machinery so that the cuts are precision instead of just done to a line. But this gives me a reference point of when I'm getting close and stuff, and I'll know where my measurements should be. Like I said, this isn't a precision layout. This is just a reference. It's done with simple tools. Like I said, it's done with just a copy and some Starrett measuring tools and some other basic measuring tools, and it's just done with a scribe on the metal. All it does is just give me a set of reference lines to work from, and go to start cutting here pretty soon. So you can see that I've taken the mill vise off of my mill, and I'm working straight off the table. You'll notice that the big block is clamped to another smaller piece, which is a piece of 2x3, 8620. What I'm doing here is I'm going to cut the water table and take it up to the breech face, and I figured while I was at it I happened to have a spare 2-bore barrel, so I'm going to machine a single shot 2-bore action at the same time because all the setups are the same, so it won't take me any longer to machine the action on a single as well as the double at the same time. Might as well make all the cuts since it all takes the same amount of setup time. The single shot's not for a customer, it's just something I'm building because I do happen to have another barrel to build, and I figured while I was doing this, might as well just take care of that at the same time. Once the action for the single shot's built, I may just set it aside and not mess with it for a while because it's, like I said, it's not for a customer. What'll happen is you can see, if you can see this little ring right here, I've already made a touchdown just to get my reference point for the top, and I'm going to cut down to the top of the water table, making passes back and forth. This is a 3-inch end mill, biggest one I own, also about the biggest my mill can handle. And I'll just make my way back and forth, taking it down as I go, and then when I get down to water table height, I'll move back and take it back to the breech face. When I get real close to the bottom of the breech face, I'll stop short enough to where I can come in with a roundover bit, ball end mill, and make my shoulder cut so I don't have a 90-degree shoulder where the breech meets the water table. I'll have a radius there instead. It's a much stronger connection between the two surfaces. So that's pretty much where I'm at. The misting system I use, the coolant system I use is called a Cool Mister. I don't use a flood system because I don't have the pumps and trays and everything to recirculate a flood system. So for me, a Cool Mister works really good. If you know how to run them, you set them up properly and you keep your air pressures and everything running like they're supposed to, they don't fog up your shop, they don't make things rust. They work really efficiently if they're set up properly, so I don't have too much trouble with it. I know a lot of guys don't like them because they do tend to make things rust, and if they're not set up properly, they fill your shop full of fog and it's a miserable condition to work in. But I haven't had any problem using this system, so it's what I use. The 2 blocks of steel are clamped to the table with standard clamp set. There's also a big Bessie clamp holding the 2 together in the back so that they can't shift around from each other. And I'll start making cuts here and you can see what it looks like, and then I'll probably stop the recording because it's going to take me a long time to make these cuts on down to the water table, and so you'll get an idea, but I'll kind of do it in time lapse like I did the bandsaw. Well, after 11 working hours, that doesn't count the hours I was on the phone or answering emails or any of the normal other stuff that goes with running a business. This was 11 hours of from cutoff to layout to machine time. This is how far I've gotten today. I've taken about 1/2 inch of metal off the top of the water table so far, and made a whole crap load of chips on my floor. And that's what I mentioned in the last video, that I like my machine room to be separate from the rest of my shop, and this is exactly why. But I'm going to try and also, give you guys an idea of the actual hours involved in this. And so when you think about it, 11 hours today, and that doesn't count the 100+ hours I spent doing the actual drawings to work up to this point. You kind of get an idea that at these kind of hours that this is going to be a really expensive project, and so I was kind of hoping that that'd give people an idea of what this really involves when you're talking about doing one-off custom guns like this, from designing to finish. That there's a massive amount of hours in these things, and particularly double rifles are extremely expensive because of the hours involved in them. So I'll kind of keep a running log of the hours I put in on this, and I'll be able to add it up at the end of the project and give everybody an idea of what kind of hours going to make in one of these. So that's it for today, and do some more work tomorrow.